Hey everyone! God, I love my intro music. What are you doing today? Do you want to join me on a New York City book crawl where I'll be stopping at 4 bookstores all across New York City? This will be the first of many bookstore tour videos, so if I don't hit your favorites, don't even worry about it because I will in the future. But without further ado, let's go on a book shopping adventure. And of course, I'll show you the books I got along the way. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. This video was inspired by one of Lexi's, aka Newly Nova's videos, where she does her own New York book crawl. And she's a channel I absolutely love. And just like her, I'm also very socially anxious, so I will not be vlogging in public. So instead of talking to my camera in front of people, I'm gonna do a little voiceover moment. Hey diva. Sup, beach. But we'll meet back up here for the book hauls. Say hi, cowboy. Well, yes. Oh, and by the way, if you're new here, I'm Blaine Christopher, and this is Blaine's Book Club. I started out my day in Seaport going to McNally Jackson Books. Seaport is a cutesy downtown neighborhood on the edge of East River. There's many restaurants, bars, and skyline views, and personally, I'm obsessed with its cobblestone streets and rooftop concert venue. I had very magical experiences seeing Tovlo and Rina Sawayama. I was like dancing in the wind, taking in the city views around me. It was very magical. Anyway, back to the bookstore tour vlog, whatever. McNally Jackson Books is an independent bookstore with 5 locations around the city. I went to the one in Seaport because it's my favorite, but also because my friend Taylin works nearby and she popped in to say hello. In 2025, New York Magazine called McNally Jackson likely the 3rd largest buyer of books in the city after only Barnes & Noble and The Strand. Something I thought was interesting was the owner, Sarah McNally, originally opened the store McNally Robinson, but changed the name to McNally Jackson after the birth of her firstborn son. So the new name referenced her son that she had with a man named Christopher Jackson. But throughout her 6-ish year marriage to Christopher Jackson, she never let him run things officially or hold a formal position, which I'm fully speculating whether or not he even wanted to, but I think it's badass. Again, that's total speculation. The bookstore is super cute with a coffee shop and a display of popular books on the 1st level, and then you go up this staircase, and I love a staircase, and it takes you to the 2nd floor that has more spaced out genres and even a couple places to sit and read. I think the coffee shop would be an excellent place to sit and read if I could ever show up and be able to find a place to sit in that coffee shop. Hasn't happened yet. Excited for the day it does. I picked up a copy of Circe by Madeline Miller, which my friend Liz was reading during our 24-hour readathon. Unfortunately, I did proceed to spill coffee all over the bag and the book on my commute, but don't worry, the book is fine. Oh, it has that really good new book smell with a hint of coffee. I'm really excited about this one. Liz seemed to love it, and it's the same author as Song of Achilles, which is also on my bookshelf. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born, but Circe is a strange child, not powerful like her father, nor viciously alluring like her mother. Turning to the world of mortals for companionship, she discovers that she does possess power, the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Threatened, Zeus banishes Circe to a deserted island, where she hones her occult craft and crosses paths with many of the most famous figures in all of mythology, including the Minotaur, Daedalus and his doomed son, Icarus, and the murderous Medea, and of course, wily Odysseus. But there is danger, too, for a woman who stands alone, and Circe unwittingly draws the wrath of both men and gods, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. To protect what she holds dear, Circe must summon her strength and choose once and for all whether she belongs with the gods she is born from or the mortals she has come to love. I'm excited to get into it. I also think the cover is beautiful and there's a map. I love a map. It seriously smells so good. It still smells like the shop. Okay, I'm being a freak on camera. I went over to my friend Cammie's apartment to pick her up, and I found her watching last week's video while doing her laundry. It was cute. We went to Williamsburg for some Mexican food and a little drink moment, and then after lunch we walked over to the Twisted Spine. The Twisted Spine is New York City's first bookstore for horror and dark literature. It's been operating since fall of 2024, but it just opened its brick and mortar in Williamsburg. It's a horror bookstore, espresso cafe, and beer and wine bar. I think Williamsburg Williamsburg is a great neighborhood for it because it's a very trendy neighborhood with an eclectic art scene. And also Williamsburg is pretty accessible to get to, so it can definitely draw in a lot of tourists. But they give the impression that they really want to cultivate a little community of people with their events and the way they run their Instagram. So I am very curious to see how this bookstore operates in the future. I was surprised by its size, expecting it to be a lot larger with a wider selection based on its hype that it was getting online. However, upon looking at their website, I've learned they have a strong commitment to promoting marginalized voices and are carefully curating a diverse selection of books. So I think they are very hands-on with the books they choose to sell, which I really appreciate. I definitely want to come back here and grab a drink and read. I loved seeing some of the books I read displayed. There was like this weird sense of pride I felt having read them and seeing them. I wanted to tell everyone around me to get them. I ended up picking up quite a few books here, even though I originally had the one book rule per shop, but oops. I picked up the sequel to Bunny, We Love You, Bunny by Mona Awad. I'm not really sure how we turned that book into a sequel, but I'm very excited to find out. Fall down the rabbit hole into the intoxicating world of Mona Awad's second darkly comic tour de force set in the Bunnyverse. I love that. From the queen of the fever dream herself comes the pulse-pounding sequel, prequel, and standalone companion to her cult classic novel Bunny. It's a sequel and a prequel. Okay. Samantha Heather Mackey, originally ostracized by the clique of creepy, sweet, rich girls in her highly selective MFA program, who call themselves Bunny, found herself thrown into the violently surreal world of their off-campus workshop where monstrous creations were conjured with deadly and wondrous consequences. When We Love You, Bunny opens, Sam has just published her first novel to critical acclaim, but at the New England stop on her book tour, her one-time frenemies, furious at the way they've been portrayed, kidnap her. With Sam bound and gagged, we plunge headfirst into the wickedly intoxicating fairy tale they offer up at their side of the story. The bunnies take turns recounting the birth of their unholy alliance, their discovery of their unusual creative powers, and the phantasmagoric adventure of conjuring their first creation. Dazzlingly, I can't say that word. Oh, dazzlingly original and wildly hilarious. We Love You, Bunny promises another captivating descent into dark academia and profound exploration of just how deeply our fictions reveal the truth of our hearts. I will definitely be doing a video reading the sequel eventually. Okay, next book. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This was under the NYC authors section. I'm currently reading the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and having a great time, so I can't wait to read this. High school sophomores Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 4th grade, but after an evening of skinny dipping goes disastrously wrong, Gretchen begins to act different. She's moody, she's irritable, sounds like a normal teenager, and bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. Abby's investigation leads her to some startling discoveries, and by the time their story reaches its terrifying conclusion, the fate of Abby and Gretchen will be determined by a single question. Is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? Like an unholy hybrid of Beaches and The Exorcist? My Best Friend's Exorcism blends teen angst, adolescent drama, unspeakable horrors, and a mix of 80s pop songs into a pulse-pounding supernatural thriller. Say fucking less. And the last book I picked up at the Twisted Spine is Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. I read Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, and it quickly became one of my favorite books. I was thrilled to find this in the bookshop. This is a highly anticipated read for me, and I kind of want to just start it right now, but I'm gonna practice patience. The cover is so sick. 4 years ago, an unthinkable disaster occurred in what is later known as the low probability event. 8 million people were killed in a single day, all of them dying in improbable, bizarre ways. Strangled by balloon ropes, torn apart by exploding manhole covers, attacked by a chimpanzee wielding a typewriter. A day of freak accidents that proved anything is possible, no matter the odds. Luck is real now, and it's not always good. Vera, a former former statistics and probability professor, lost everything that day, and she still struggles to make sense of the unbelievable catastrophe. To her, the LPE proved that the god of order is dead and nothing matters anymore. When Special Agent Lane shows up on Vera's doorstep, she learns he's investigating a suspiciously and statistically impossibly lucky casino. He needs her help to prove the casino's success is connected to the deaths of millions, and it's Vera's last chance to make sense of a world that doesn't. Because what happens in Vegas isn't staying there, and she's the only thing that stands between the world and another deadly improbability. And my camera's dying. Alright, we're back in business. CJ Reid, author of American Rapture, says it sparkles and shines as bright as the Las Vegas Strip. Hell yeah. Let's continue, shall we? Next stop, Books Are Magic and Brooklyn Heights. Books are magic, and apparently bathrooms are too. Available bathrooms in New York City are kind of magical. Having to pee, like, really bad and not being able to find a bathroom while walking around the city is, like, honestly, traumatic.
Books are magic.
Books Are Magic. Books Are Magic was opened by Emma Straub, author of a book I own, All Adults Here. There was a bookstore in Brooklyn Emma Straub had worked at that ended up closing in 2016. Straub was like, no, there needs to be a bookstore, and so she opened her own with her husband Mike. Books Are Magic now has 2 locations, the first in Carroll Gardens and the second, the location I'm at, which is in Brooklyn Heights. Brooklyn Heights is known for its beautiful brownstones and its waterfront Brooklyn Bridge Park. The store was my favorite of the day. The energy was good, the store's employees were very nice. I felt like I could spend a lot of time in here. I ended up getting Taylor Jenkins' read Carrie Soto Is Back, which Cami informed me I should read Malibu Rising after because it takes place in the same universe with some character overlap, which is always fun. Carrie Soto Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Carrie Soto is fierce, and her determination to win at any cost has not made her popular. But by the time she retires from tennis, she is the best player the world has ever seen. She has shattered every record and claimed 20 Grand Slam titles, and if you ask Carrie, she is entitled to every one. She sacrificed nearly everything to become the best, with her father, Javier, as her coach. A former champion himself, Javier has trained her since the age of 2. But 6 years after her retirement, Carrie finds herself sitting in the stands of the 1994 US Open, watching her record be taken from her by a brutal, stunning player named Nikki Chan. At 37 years old, Carrie makes the monumental decision to come out of retirement and be coached by her father for one last year in an attempt to reclaim her record, even if the sports media says that they never liked the battle axe anyway. Even if her body doesn't move as fast as it's used to, and even if it means swallowing her pride to train with a man she once almost opened her heart to, Bo Huntley. Like her, he has something to prove before he gives up the game forever. In spite of it all, Carrie Soto is back for one epic final season. In this riveting and unforgettable novel, Taylor Jenkins Reid tells her most vulnerable, emotional story yet. Oh, and Miss Emma Straub herself, the owner of Books Are Magic, says, another ace by Taylor Jenkins Reid and immersive delight. I can't remember where I heard this, but someone described Carrie Soto as mean, and I love a scary woman main narrator, so I am very excited to read this. The last stop of the day was a romantic one. The Ripped Bodice in Park Slope. A couple things about me. I love romance novels, and I love Park Slope. Park Slope is the perfect neighborhood for this bookstore because I could totally see it as the backdrop for a romantic novel. It's known for its beautiful brownstone-lined streets and views of Prospect Park. The Ripped Bodice had every romance book you could ever ask for. Its decorations were interesting. I loved the concept. The lighting, however, for a romance bookstore, jail time. Absolutely devastating. I felt like I was in a hospital. They needed warmer romantic lighting. Like, duh. I love when bookstores do this. There was this section of wrapped surprise books you could pick out. So I chose the gay ones, and I thought it would be fun to open them on camera. I also picked up a couple books that were recommended to me in the comments. Slippery Creatures by KJ Charles. It is the first book of the Will Darling adventures. Will Darling came came back from the Great War with a few scars, a lot of medals, and no idea what to do next. Inheriting his uncle's chaotic secondhand bookshop is a blessing until strange visitors start making threats. First, a criminal gang, then the War Office, both telling Will to give them the information they want or else. Will has no idea what the information is and nobody to turn to until Kim Secretan, charming, cultured, oddly attractive, steps in to offer help. As Kim and Will try to find answers and outrun trouble, mutual desire grows along with the danger. And then Will discovers the truth about Kim, his identity, his past, his real intentions. Enraged and betrayed, Will never wants to see him again. That feels like a spoiler to me, but okay. But Will possesses knowledge that could cost thousands of lives. Enemies are closing in on him from all sides, and Kim is the only man who can help. I think I mentioned in my queer books I've read this summer video, or maybe my bookshelf tour video, I mentioned that I wanted to get into more historical fiction, and I mentioned that I wanted some more gay romance. And this lovely subscriber gave these recommendations, and I added them to my spreadsheet, of course. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments. The next book she recommended, You Should Be So Lucky by Sebastian. An emotional, slow burn, grumpy/sunshine queer romance between the new star shortstop stuck in a batting slump and the reporter assigned to, reluctantly, cover his first season. Isolated together within the crush of an anonymous city, these two lonely souls orbit each other as they slowly give in to the inevitable gravity of their attraction. But Mark has vowed that he'll never be someone's secret ever again, and Eddie can't be out as a professional athlete. It's just them against the world, and they'll both have to decide if that's enough. Love. Let's open the surprise books. The Ripped Bodice Blind Date with the Book. It says it's red, white, and royal blue meets The Boys and the Boat, and it's an MLM. Right, let's open it. It feels like Christmas. I love opening wrapped presents. ASMR. See You at the Finish Line by Zach Hammett. Their only path to victory is each other. Rivals George and Lucas can't stand each other. Looks like we have an enemies to lovers vibe going on here, which makes it pretty awkward being on the same highly competitive Cambridge University rowing team. All-American and extra charming George is only in England for his sporting prowess, getting preferential treatment despite his subpar grades. When that news leaks across campus, George has just one person who can bail him out. Economics whiz and sarcasm expert Lucas, an overachiever in every category except his love life. A tit-for-tat deal is struck. Lucas will teach George how to study if George will coach Lucas on how to win over his longtime crush. As they face off against their cutthroat Oxford competitors, they're thrown right into the deep end, seducing and stroking their way to success. But after close proximity starts to make waves between the two of them, what happens when your worst enemy becomes your biggest cheerleader? Will George and Lucas get wrecked, or will their hearts cross the finish line? Well, I hope either George or Lucas gets wrecked, okay? Cute. I definitely see the red, white, and royal blue comparison. I've never read Boys in a Boat, but slay. One of the reviews says it's a page-turning slow burn romance, and I love a good slow burn. And the next book I get to open like a present is described as a collection of erotic stories about queer desires. And I love erotic stories about queer desires. Bent for Leather, Stories of Queer Desires, okay, by Cecilia Tan. And it's signed by the author. Oh my gosh, hey, Cecilia Tan. Cute signature. I jumped into the world of BDSM roleplay in my 20s, and I quickly found that I could be a girl, boy, maid, or puppy, and that none of these roles actually depended on my gender or physical body. All they depended on was the story that my play partners and I were creating together. So I guess it's no surprise that these reflections of my inner self have come out in my erotic stories. My brain has always been my biggest sex organ, and storytelling and fantasy have always been my biggest kinks. This is not something I would usually pick up. That's actually such a fucking lie. I would totally pick this up. I am very intrigued. I love that Cecilia Tan found some kind of solace in their body and their gender in this like sexual world that I don't know very much about. So I am excited to explore this world with Cecilia Tan. Wow, you guys, 4 bookstores, a wonderful city, and a great day. I had so much fun filming this. I definitely want to do more exploration of the literary landscape of New York City. There are so many iconic bookstores, libraries, literary landmarks here that I want to discover and explore with you. So let's hang out and do that in due time. I'll keep y'all updated on these books as I read them. I'm gonna put them on my shelf. I'm so excited to organize my bookshelf. If you want to check out more of my videos, there's a link in the description to a playlist where you can binge watch all of my videos. Let's hang out. Please like and subscribe and comment if you want. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.